This is Retirement Roadmap Radio with Mark Fricks from Master Plan Retirement Consultants. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Retirement Roadmap Radio with your host, Mark Fricks.
Hello again and welcome to another episode of Retirement Roadmap Radio with me, your host, Mark Fricks. And we are joined today by the illustrious Tony Shore, our co-host, and he will be coming along for the ride. Actually, he does most of the driving, to be honest with you. I just kind of go along for the ride. But Tony, how are you today, my friend?
I am so good.
How good are you?
I'm so good it hurts. No, I'm fantastic. My dad always says when he asks, somebody said, "How you doing today?" He goes, "Tired, mad, disgusted, hungry, and broke." That's what he always says.
But doing well.
Because nobody ever expects an honest
true.
answer or a negative answer to that. But he always laughs. He's a joker. But I'm doing great. How about you? What's going on over there, Mark?
Tony, just keep on keeping on. We've I may have said this last week. I can't remember, but it bears repeating again. We have now entered our 21st state. So another 4 states will be in half the country as a company. So it's really cool.
You're not talking about state of mind. You're talking about actual.
We have clients in 21
geographical
states.
state.
Yes. Let's don't talk about my state.
Yeah, or my state of mind. Yeah.
Yes,
well,
yes.
especially with everything that's been going on that can affect retirees and pre-retirees, like rising interest rates, inflation, market volatility, and I know you're always giving us great tips and strategies to help out with that, and I know you love talking to our listeners, so before we jump in, I want to encourage our listeners, as they listen, jot down any questions you might have, unless you're driving, of course. Just keep them mentally if you're driving, and call. I know, Mark, you'd love to meet with folks, and that initial consultation, there's no cost or obligation. What's the phone number our listeners can call?
Yeah, sure. 770-980-9262. Or as we always say, a great place to go is the website, masterplanretire.com. Great place to visit. All the contact information is there, ability to set appointments, and mostly ability to schedule just a 30-minute chat with me. Hey, Mark, I'm worried about this, or am I ready, or do I have enough money to retire? All of those questions that need to be answered before you pull that trigger.
Sure. Okay, so what are we talking about today?
So today, I think a very practical show. Came across an article from Fidelity, and it's called 8 Things Most Americans Don't Know About Retirement. These are misconceptions. So we're going to concept them. Is that a good?
I think that's good, although I think we should talk about 8 things most Americans don't know about pizza.
About pizza. Yeah, but I think that's only 4 things. So the show would only be half as long.
What about 8 things most Americans don't know about chickens? How about
chickens would be like in the hundreds. It would be
there are hundreds of things you and I alone don't know about chickens. Okay, right. So I think it's good we focus on retirement since that's your area of expertise. So we're going to talk about 8 things most Americans don't know about retirement. What's the first thing you want to touch on that list?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do it as a question. So roughly, how much do investment professionals say people should save by the time they retire? And so some of the answers we get are I think 74% underestimate how much is needed, and 25% said they only needed to save 2 to 3 times the amount of their last year's income. And actually, the estimate is 10 times the amount of your income in the last year. So vastly underestimating how much is needed is a big mistake. And, I guess it's made because people put pen to paper and start playing with some numbers and try to fool themselves and I think they're ready. I don't know. But we really, we've got the software to run. We've got the scenarios we could run. So don't guess at this. And certainly if 74% of people are underestimating, that's a huge amount of people that are not ready to retire, for sure.
Right. So people underestimate what they're going to need. I think that is a mistake or something people don't know. And I know that's a question you get a lot. So I know that's top of mind for a lot of people. How much do I need in retirement? That's a big question people ask. So I can see that making the list. 8 things most Americans don't know. And it's important to know, and there are easy ways to figure that out. But it's different for everyone, right? That number
is going to be
different.
Yeah, and I hate to put that out where it's this formula of, hey, 10 times what you made last year, because that's really not super accurate as a gauge. It's like the cover of a magazine, that you want to buy. Hey, that's good. Let's read that or whatever. But really, it's different. Like you said, Tony, you put it great. It's different for everyone depending on so many different factors that we get into with people we discuss this with. So get help. Let's get the numbers run. Let's take a look and see where you are and what it's going to take to get you to where you need to be to supply your income for a lifetime.
Yep. That's a big one. That's a good first step. What's next? What's something else most Americans don't know about retirement?
Yeah, so this is the question. How often over the past 35 years do you think the market has had a positive annual return? So out of 35 years, how many of those were positive? And so most people will say, let me read this, only 8% answered correctly. Those between 55 and 65 did slightly better, with 14% responding correctly. And so the answer is we've had a positive return 30 out of the past 35 years. Now, that does not count this year, but that's a pretty good percentage, and which tells us that we don't need to panic because of 3 months. You don't need to panic because of what may be happening today. We feel like whatever's happening today, and a great time to have this conversation, by the way, what's happening today is not the way it's always going to be. And I'm not saying the market's not going to go down for the next 3 months. I don't know that. And this year,
2022 could be rough. It's been rough so far, and it could be rough, but you need a plan in place. But you're right. I knew that one because of we've talked about it before, and you and I. But I knew the answer to that. But that is a low number. I thought more people would realize, how many years. And I mean, I think since the inception of the market, it's also a high percentage. I've heard. I mean, like 75%, something like that, of up years. I mean, it's pretty big number.
Well, just take a look at 2020 during the COVID lockdown. The market lost between 26 and 33% in 3 or 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
But we ended up the year very positive.
Yeah.
So
really
again,
positive.
If you had panicked in March and April and sold, you would have been in bad shape. And so that's why, we're careful, but the way we have our clients set up, they're protected in different ways. So we don't really worry too much about markets because guess what? We know we're going to have a bad year here and there. So we prepare for it.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so a lot of Americans don't realize the market in the long term, how it works, and that it has more upside than downside. It's kind of like the weatherman. We all assume, man, that weatherman's never right. How does he keep his job? And I know they've done surveys and studies. Weathermen are typically right about 90 to 95% of the time. But what do we remember?
That's right.
The 5%.
That's right.
That 5% is a killer. Well, so what's the next thing on your list?
So this question is, if you were able to set aside $50 each month for retirement, how much could that end up becoming in 25 years with interest if it grew at the historical stock market average, which is between 7 and 8%, by the way. So if you're saving $50 a month for 25 years, what do you think you would end up with? And the answer is about $40,000. That's only $50 a month, 25 years. But almost 50% of the people estimated a lot less than that. So people don't understand the compound interest equation, the power of compound interest. And so I think, again, time can be on your side. The problem, Tony, as you know, is a lot of people don't start early.
Right.
And I read, a couple of years ago, where like 70-something% of people that changed jobs spent their 401k at their old job as opposed to rolling it over to an IRA or their And so you start over every time you start a new job. And how many times do we change jobs in today's world? And so, keeping even if it is just $50 a month. Next year, maybe it'll be 100. In 10 years, maybe it's 200. Maybe you get a match at work. start with something. And if you got kids, start your kids with something. Get them into the habit of what I call paying themselves first.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really good point, and really important. A lot of people don't realize that. So that's another thing on the list. Where are we at here? Are we at number 4?
Numero 4.
Yeah.
So I'm bilingual, as you can tell. So numero quattro. How about that? So number 4, given the current average life expectancy, if you retired at age 65, how long would you need your money to last? In other words, how long are you going to live if you retire at 65? Most people give less years. Most people say 12 to 17 years when actually on average it's 22.
Yeah, 20 to 30, I was going to say. And it can be 30 nowadays. I mean, my grandfather's 101, and he's camping right now in a new camper.
Exactly.
I'm not joking.
No,
of course,
we've
he's
talked
a
about
unique
that
individual, but he is somewhat unique, but it can happen, and it's happening more and more. People are living to 95, 100.
Well, and this is male and female. So if you're female, I would say probably more like 25, 26 years.
Yes.
And who knows, like you said, and you know, if the husband passes away and then the spouse, widow, lives another 10, 15 years, they're living on less money because they've lost one of the Social Security payments, and who knows what else has happened? Maybe a pension's been lost, and so that's why we really pay a lot of attention to, because very rarely do a couple pass away at the same time, and so, but yeah, 22 years or more, and that number climbs almost every year as well.
Wow.
So if you're at 55, by the time you reach 65, that number may be 25 years that your money needs to last.
Right.
What if you retire at 60? Or 62. That's got to last almost 30 years. So we got to make sure. That's when we run numbers. I run them to age 100, because you may mess up and live that long. And if you do, I want to make sure you're ready.
Right.
So, yep. Fascinating stuff, I think.
Well, yeah, for sure. Longevity is an issue that you're right. Most Americans don't understand how longevity can play a big factor in retirement, and especially retirement income. So what's next on the list, Mark?
Yeah, so the next one, question 5, approximately how much did the average monthly Social Security benefit pay? This is a little bit old, in 2016. In other words, how much did the average person get each month? And most people guessed, let's see, actually they came pretty close. A lot of them, 43% answered correctly. And half of pre-retirees answered correctly as well. It's $1,300. I think now it's about $1,400 a month. That's the average. Now you got to understand, I think the most you can collect at full retirement age right now is around a little over $3,000 a month. That's the maximum. But a lot of married couples, maybe the spouse is only getting half of the other spouses because they didn't qualify.
Yeah.
You've got claims.
Very few people get that maximum amount, though.
Very few.
I mean, you really have to wait until at least your full retirement age. Yeah. You have to have earned high income for 30, 35 years, and that's
well. And Tony, as we've talked about, a lot of people claim early. So maybe you'd get $2,400 at 66 or 67, but you're only going to get $1,800 or $1,900, and they're like, "Well, I want to get it before it goes away," or whatever. We've talked about that's kind of a ridiculous statement or fear.
Yeah, because you got to do the math to figure out, based on what your family life history is and longevity is, and what your needs are. What's the sweet spot for you? Because for a lot of people, it might be 65. For some people, it's going to be earlier. But if you take it earlier, you get a greatly reduced benefit by almost a quarter or a third. Yeah.
Well, from 62 to 70, it's like a 73% difference.
It's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. And so that we have the software to run, and sometimes it'll tell us maybe one spouse take early, then the other one delays. So there's different scenarios that we use, but again, it's different, like you said, Tony, for everyone. So we have to take that into account.
And you have that to mention that you have a report that you can run, the Social Security Maximization Report, that does over 20,000 calculations to help figure out what's your sweet spot. And if you're a couple, it can help figure out, okay, a surviving spouse, the spousal benefits, here's where you should each file. I think that's really important. So for our listeners out there that either have not yet filed or have just recently filed, they should give you a call, set up a time to go in and have that report run. I know that's part of the initial consultation. You'll do that for them. So let's take a minute here, actually, before we move on, to let our listeners know how they can set up that consultation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's complimentary. It's a chance, whether it be by Zoom, telephone, if you want to meet face-to-face, depending on what part of town you're in and what part of the country I'm in at that particular point.
Sure.
But it's 30 minutes for you to ask your questions, for you to voice your concerns, talk about your goals, where you want to be, where you're going to be living, what are you going to be doing in retirement, a little bit about your situation. And then based on how that conversation goes, we can gather a little bit of additional information from you and run a series of 7 to 10 reports. Let's see where we are, what's going to trip us up. Can you make it? What do you need to do to make sure you do make it? And again, all complimentary. Love to do it for you. We probably do, I'd say on average, 6 to 8 of these types of meetings each week. That's in addition to me seeing my regular clients and going through the process of planning. And so, I don't mind taking that time, that 30 to 40 minutes to spend with you. And my staff, they keep my calendar full. I mean, every 30 to 45 minutes, I got somebody else lined up or a client lined up or whatever, because that's what I do. My staff takes care of everything else.
Sure.
I'm here to talk to clients and to teach classes and to do radio shows and TV shows and all that kind of good stuff. So,
sure.
But yeah, Master Plan Retire is a great way to reach us. masterplanretire.com. You can push a little button there, Tony. It says schedule an appointment. You can call us. You can email us to the website. That's a great way. masterplanretire.com.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I know you love hearing from listeners.
I do.
Whether they're radio listeners, podcast listeners, or watch the show on YouTube. The show is available all 3 places here on the radio. It's available as a podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music, all 4 of those services. So they can find you. Just type in Mark Fricks and Retirement Roadmap, and they will find the show, Fricks Retirement Roadmap, on any of those services, or go to your website, and the links are there too.
That's exactly correct.
And they can listen on the website. They don't have to subscribe as a podcast. So, Mark, where are we at here with our discussion? We're talking about 8 things most Americans don't know about retirement, right?
Yep. We're on number 6. I like number 6 because this has changed over the years. So what percentage of your savings do many financial experts suggest that you withdraw annually in retirement? In other words, you've got an IRA worth $500,000. How much can you safely take out of that each year and it not run out of money? So there's a study done by Morningstar back in, I think it was 1994 or 1996. And they came up with something they call the 4% rule. And what that says is if you take out 4% or less from your IRA each year based on average market returns, you have a 96% chance of not running out of money. Now, first of all, I think 96% is not good enough for me. I prefer 100%. But anyway.
Yeah, nobody wants to take a pay cut in retirement if they don't have to, right?
Or run out of money, yeah. But this has changed. Morningstar redid the study in 2013, and now the new number is 2.8.
Yeah.
So now your money has become less efficient, which is why we are using different tools to produce income that can produce income of 5 to 6%, and it's guaranteed.
Right.
And so we are not
unlike
using
all
the
that
market.
Other money that was in the market before that was based on money that was tied to the stock market in 401ks, traditional IRAs, things like that, or regular IRAs. So retirement accounts that are in the market, it was the old 4% rule, but now you can only safely withdraw 2.8%. And, a lot of people can't live on 2.8%.
Well, you just took like you said, a pay cut, and it's less efficient. So let's use something more efficient than the market, which is, and the reason because of the change between 1994 and 2013 is the market. If you look at the market volatility, those 20 years versus the last 20 years, night and day.
Yeah.
So imagine if the market, like we see the volatility now, and you're taking out $3,000 a month and the market's down 20%, you're eating away your principal really, really quickly. So we use other tools for income and let the market money be our backup, be our vacation money, be our new roof money, a new car money, or whatever, things you only need twice a year as opposed to every month to pay the light bill. So very important that things change. We can't do what people did 20 years ago. We got to do what we need to do today, and we're constantly changing the way we do things to make sure that we're ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's hugely important, knowing how much you're going to need every month, figuring out that number, which ties into your first point today of the show, that people need to know what they're going to need. But those monthly bills that are there every month, you don't want to be pulling out of the market and high risk when it's down for those costs each month. That's a good point.
And as I've said before, the power company's funny. If you miss a month, you're in the dark, so you kind of want to make sure you make that payment every month.
Have to. Yeah, those are things that have to happen. So what's next?
Number 7, what do you think is the biggest expense for most people in retirement? You have a guess, Tony?
What's the biggest expense for most people in retirement? I would say healthcare.
That's number 2. Housing's number 1.
Housing,
healthcare, number 2.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. But that's interesting because healthcare we don't think of as being a big expense when we're 30 and 40 years old. We got health insurance, and we have Medicare in retirement, but there's so many things that aren't covered. My mom lost her hearing aid the other day, $2,000 to replace it.
Yep.
Dental. We've talked about dental care. It's just crazy. I just went to the dentist, and I've got great dental insurance. Still costs me $500 out of pocket.
Yep.
If you're on a fixed income, you got that going on. You got Part B deductibles, and you got supplement cost.
Yep.
And
regular Medicare doesn't cover vision, dental, or hearing, or long-term care.
Long-term care.
Plus, there's costs associated. You still have premiums and deductibles with a lot of Medicare. So the people who think they get free health care through Medicare in retirement are really wrong.
Yep. Probably your health care, just the cost of insurance will probably be more in retirement than it is what you're paying now.
But I believe that. So even I was wrong. In the survey of Americans, that's something I didn't know. I thought it was health care, but you're right. I wasn't thinking of the cost of rent or a mortgage.
Yeah, and if you have a house, the upkeep,
or even assisted living, that's really expensive.
Or just senior citizen living. These apartments are expensive. These housing units. So, it's getting pretty crazy for sure. So number 8. You don't have a drum roll nearby, do you, Tony?
I don't.
You didn't bring that with you today?
I didn't bring the drum roll with me. I don't think.
Right.
I have an.
Let's not do that anymore.
That's not quite it. No, I don't have a drum roll ready for you today.
Okay, so number 8. About how much will a couple retiring at age 65 spend on out-of-pocket health care over the course of retirement? We just talked about how much it is, so how much is it?
I'd say $250,000.
It's up to $280,000 per couple from age 65 till death.
I knew it was a lot.
And by the way, Tony, that does not include long-term care. That is strictly health care.
Oh.
Yeah. So, again, if you're not budgeting for that, which we do, that's part of our discussion, then you're not ready to retire. And again, like the title of our show today, 8 things most Americans don't know. Don't walk into retirement blind. Be prepared. Let's examine these items and more. There's more areas we need to look at, but these are the 8 things that people just don't realize, and I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, it was a great discussion, Mark, and I think that those 8 things are so important. I'm glad we went over these today. Now, before we go, once again, let's talk about the offer you have for our listeners out there and how you can help them.
Yeah. So again, 30 minutes for you to talk to me, to ask me questions. to voice your concerns. Tell me about, what retirement looks like for you. How close are you? What are you thinking? Are you moving? Are you downsizing? What are you doing with your free time? All this kind of stuff that you've probably never talked to anybody about before. They're not going to talk to you about that down at Schwab. They're going to say, hey, let's invest your money, So we, being retirement plannings and fiduciaries, need to understand and need to know first, before we start building that house, we need to have a blueprint. And part of putting that blueprint in is, do you like windows? Do you like doors? Do you want a bigger house, a smaller house? So that's all part of developing that retirement roadmap that we talk about so much. So it begins with a discussion. And that's that 30-minute chat, complimentary, just a phone call, a Zoom call, a face-to-face, whatever it may be. We're on the west side of Atlanta, outside of Marietta. We have other offices around the southeast. And so just tell us where you're at. If I'm in that area, I'll be glad to meet face-to-face with you. I love seeing people right in front of me, but that's okay either way. But that first phone call, usually it's great just to do a Zoom or a phone chat because it's very preliminary. And then based on that, where does it lead us? Well, many folks say, yeah, I would like to get those reports. I want to know where I stand financially. And so you fill out a very simple little form with some basic information, nothing personal, no account numbers, nothing like that. So we can run those reports, and then we'll have a second meeting where we show those reports to you, go through them line by line to see where you stand. All complimentary, Tony. So to schedule that, easiest way is go to the website, masterplanretire.com, all one word, and push the little button in the bottom right-hand corner. It says schedule an appointment. My calendar pops up. I apologize. I am really booked for the next 2 weeks out almost all the time, but just look, find a spot, grab it. Be the first to grab it so you have more opportunity, and then we'll follow up with an email and a Zoom link or a phone link or whatever, and then we'll be chatting at your convenience. Another way is to call us. 770-980-9262 is another great way to reach us, and we'll be glad to get that scheduled for you.
All right. Thanks, Mark. And that does it for today's episode of Retirement Roadmap Radio with our host, Mark Fricks.
And thank you for joining us. We don't take it for granted. I love when people come in or call me and say, hi, I heard your show last week. I want to talk about it or whatever. It lets me know you're out there. So I really like to hear from our listeners. But in the meantime, until we see each other again, whether it be next week or on podcast or wherever, don't forget, plan well and prosper. Have a great day, everybody.